Good afternoon, welcome. This is Media Center in Ukrinform, and right now we'll talk about the Air Forces of Ukraine. Our speaker today is Yuriy Ihnat, the spokesperson for the Air Force of Ukraine's Armed Forces. Yuriy, hello, here in studio. Tell us about the operational situation as of now. Good afternoon, colleagues. First of all, just to learn more about the armed forces of Ukraine, because often enough the journalists and ordinary people believe that the armed forces are the jets, fighters flying in the skies, but the armed force, the Air Force is 50,000 people strong in peacetime and is comprised of a number of important arms. First of all, aviation, bombers and transport aviation and destroyers and UAVs. Well, these are aviation components. The second arm are the air defense forces, those that are downing the enemy aerial targets. A couple of days ago we published that the Air Force of Ukraine have shot down 500 targets, including cruise missiles, jets, helicopters and UAVs. And electronic warfare troops, this is yet another arm, and we have local production of electronic warfare components that we sell and use ourselves. Everything else, the whole fleet, probably with the exception of Bayraktars and Ukrainian UAVs, well, this was the equipment of 1980s, but even in the hands of our technicians and engineers, it helps fighters in the air and on the land. What's happening in the skies? How did you manage to survive, and what does the enemy use most frequently? Well, everybody asks the question, how come that air force that was supposed to be destroyed in the first hours of the Russian aggression on February the 24th, how did we manage to preserve all that? And on the 111th day of war, we still defend our airspace? Well, first of all, for more than 2 months, the enemy is not flying to the controlled territory of Ukraine, and this is a great result already. At the temporarily occupied territories, they use jets and helicopters, but we managed to preserve is the preparation. All the 8 years that the Russian Federation tells us the mantra of war in Donbass, well, all those 8 years we've been calculating the risks, fully recognizing plans A, B, C that might arise in each situation. We were all hoping that we would be able to avoid the conflict, but it's happened and we were ready for it. In a minute, the decision was made to get the main aviation from under the attack and the personnel, and thus we managed to preserve our main Air Force assets from the destruction by Russian forces. Otherwise they will have total control over the skies all the way to the western borders. They would have, and the potential of Russia is great. We had about 700 planes and helicopters, even though we destroyed a lot of enemy targets, but the enemy brings more reserves from mainland Russia. So right now we are controlling the Air Force at the Ukraine controlled territories, and the situation is that the enemy uses its aviation from Belarus, from Black Sea, from the territory of Russia. First of all, strategic bombers Tu-164 and Tu-95 that launch high technological bombs at Ukraine, which are expensive, costing millions of dollars, like caliber missiles, naval rockets. Well, they haven't been saving their oil dollars. But recently there is a trend that they start saving such expensive, high precision missiles, and that's why they start using Soviet cruise missiles like aviation bomb Ha-59 and Ha-22, one of the missiles that destroys the most. Its payload is 900 kilos. It leaves tremendous ruins, and there's huge drawback is that it's not precise. It's often enough misses where you send it, and that's why civilian infrastructure suffers a lot. Well, with all the accompanying casualties, that's why they use those missiles. Now, speaking about the air raid alarms, well, one of those is in Kiev right now, and people keep asking us how the system operates. Is it worth making any considerations to hide or not to hide? Well, you make your own conclusions. We will keep announcing air raid alarms, and we advise you not to ignore them, because, like I said, these are high technological bombs. 295 will launch it from the Caspian Sea. They take off near Astrakhan, and then one jet could carry 16 or 12 missiles, 295 8 cruise missiles, and they can fly as one dot on radar. We use different intelligence data, including from partners, but those rockets, those missiles, can fly over Black Sea and then change its course. And we announce the air raid alarm by identifying where it might fly and what would be its potential target, using our intelligence for that. And the missile could change its course 50 degrees this way or that way, and so it will be flying along the route that was set for it by the operators. It's done to avoid the air defense capabilities. If the enemy knows where we have those assets deployed, then the missile course would be using those loopholes. That's why we all need to be focused and attentive to identify enemy agents. It's important for us. We are using various data from people that we receive to chatbots. This is extremely important for the whole nation. The most frequent question, why the missiles hit their targets still? Well, these are highly technological items, missiles. The missiles are designed to be not easy detected, flying 50 meters high, following the course of the river where it disappears from radars, what was happening in the early days of invasion. And not all of our air defense weapons can destroy them, because we have the tools for air defense, not anti-missile defense, it's anti-artillery defense. S-30 and Book 1, their major job are the aerial targets of the enemy. Helicopters and jets, which we can destroy, but we're still down the cruise missiles, but it's difficult to hit such a target? Well, cruise missiles could be of different size. We've been training to shoot them down in those 8 years that I was talking about. We've been training at Kagarlik location, but now it's being occupied. Before occupation of Crimea, we were training there, conducting military exercises there. Yeah, Chowder, that's how the range was called. Annually, we will conduct exercises where we would learn how our anti-aircraft forces were hitting Race UAV, which is very much similar to cruise missile, having the same altitude and pace, and that's how we learn to shut them down. Lots of very successful exercises, and that's why we keep hitting them better and better, because their rockets is much more technologically advanced than the UAVs that we shot down in Kherson region. I have to ask about the heroic deeds of our pilots. So, what would come to your mind straight away, and what would you be able to share with us now? Heroic deeds, well, that's what all our people are doing. That's what our commander also mentioned, who also constantly repeated that our sky protect defenders are now being awarded president's medals. That's important to award people. So week 1 and 2 were the toughest parts for all of us, all of the defenders, because we had to get back to our senses. We need, well, we knew that it's going to be coming, and one of the examples involving pilots covered already extensively in government media. 40th Tactical Brigade protects Kyiv, and that's where the image of the ghosts of Kyiv. This is a collective image of all of the pilots fighting for Kyiv, and at that time they knew that there will be Brigade 32 in Zhytomyr, but we decided we will be defending the capital, which was target number 1 for the invaders. And the air battles were very tough because the enemy prevailed us 1-5, 1-6, but our first and foremost weapon is morale. We're fighting for our own homes, for our own motherland, and also the protection of our own air defense systems. So when 2 MiG-29 destroyers flew to take care of 4 enemy bombers, so those 3 dots turned into 12 jets. But our 2 pilots haven't deviated. They went and fought them straight away. And as a result of this aerial fight, which the occupiers are so much afraid of because they try to avoid close combat, we lost our pilot, Alexandra Brizhala. The second pilot returned, but the enemy lost 3 jets, expensive, highly technological jets in that battle. That was one of those examples of the willingness to fight and to sacrifice themselves, which in such unfair conditions, 12-2, still they defeated the enemy. Similar parallels with air defense troops and electronic warfare troops. Well, EW, it's responsible for communications and such, but there are lots of service women serving there. And in the first days of the invasion, they were fighting the Russian paratroopers And they did it, and we need to respect that. Colleagues, thank you. Please use the microphone. Tell us, please. There are fresh examples on June the 11th and 12th, close to Izum. Su and K-52 were shut down. Can you share any details on that? And one more thing I would like to get back to. February the 26th, the night fight at Vasilkiv, and they informed that there was Il-76 downed after the occupation of our territories. Did we learn more about that situation? What was happening there? So, yeah, we heard about this, but for the time being we have no visualization that we can show to you because the pilot did hit the target. According to the pilot, he hit the target, and lots of people say, show us where it is, because the target might fly elsewhere and be located in somewhere where we cannot find it. So far we failed to find this target on the ground, but it did fall, and it was supported by active control means. As to K-52 helicopter, there was one of the brigades of the land forces. If you're talking about the last example, well, you need to ask of them, because we are hitting down not only aerial targets, but there are lots of air defense cannons, Stinger, Star Trek, and other systems that we shared with the National Guards, with other troops. Well, unfortunately, it's not enough of them to hit the jets at large distances. Well, the Stinger might not reach the targets flying over 4 kilometers, so the armed forces and the government are trying to constantly agree with our partners that they need to provide us such weapons that would allow us to hit the occupiers both in terms of the range and caliber. As to Su-35 jet, yeah, we shot it down, and like I said, they are trying to avoid any chances to come to our airspace, or this example, Su-34-1 turned around, the second tried its luck and was hit by our rockets complex. As to Su-35, it was hunting for our Su-25 jets, and it could hit land targets as well, but his task was to intercept our jets, but as a result we hit the enemy instead. Thank you. Further questions, please?
Is
Я зрозумів, да, далі.
how many sorties does Russian Air Force do every day? And so how many missiles and rockets does Russian air fighter launch a day? And so I wonder now Russian precision guided missile is running out, and how is the situation of Russian army's capability to do the precision attack? And so how is their operation now? Their air fighter is flying above the Donbas area and launch the air missile. And so I heard that the Russian precision missile and rocket is made by Western technologies, including Japanese. And so you do research and and you found a Japanese component in missiles. Could you explain about that?
Got it. Well, you are stating it very correctly that all high precision ammunition like Orlan 10 UAVs, which we shut down all the time, they receive them from all over the world. Canadian technologies, US, Japanese, Chinese. How many of such missiles are left with them? We don't know for sure, but we conduct analytics, and we have the military department, that military intelligence department that has such information. We just hope that they will run out of them soon. But the fact that more and more often the enemy uses Ha-59 and Ha-22 rockets, that only says that they start sieving, because the rocket Ha-101, they don't launch it from Donbass, they launch it from Caspian Sea, from Astrakhan in Russia, and it could have nuclear warhead like any other cruise missile. So it's Ha-102, that's the classification of those missiles. And yes, we see the confirmation that they start saving it here, because they're not fighting against Ukraine, they fight with the whole world. There is Japan close by, and certain political issues with you, so they need to keep threatening the whole world at various political vectors. So hopefully the Western partners will meet their obligations on not providing any technologies to Russia, because otherwise Russians will use those technologies against them. So we hope that the whole world will help to limit Russia in access to them. In any way, they will try, this terrorist state, to keep buying those technologies as contraband, smuggling it, but we hope to prevent them from ruining the whole world. Any further questions, please? Thank you for being here. That was Yuriy Ihnat, the spokesperson of the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Thank you. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.